Imagine this. You're chilling on your own private lake, jet skiing like a boss, when suddenly sirens blare and cops swarm in because your nosy HOA thinks they own everything. But wait, one ancient deed flips the script and shuts down their power trip in epic fashion. Buckle up for this wild HOA nightmare that ends in sweet justice. If you're loving these insane HOA horror stories, hit that like button right now, smash subscribe, and turn on notifications so you never miss out on the next petty neighbor drama. Let's dive in. In the quiet suburb of Willow Creek Estates, where manicured lawns stretched like green carpets under the watchful eyes of the Homeowners Association, lived a man named Alex Harlan. Alex had always dreamed of a life away from the city's hustle, and when he inherited his grandfather's sprawling property on the edge of the development, it felt like fate had handed him the keys to paradise. The estate included a modest house, acres of wooded land, and most importantly, a pristine private lake that shimmered like a hidden gem under the sun. The lake had been in his family for generations, dug out by his great-grandfather in the early 1900s as a reservoir for the farm that once occupied the land. Now surrounded by the cookie-cutter homes of Willow Creek, it stood as a relic of a wilder past, a watery oasis that Alex cherished deeply. Alex was no stranger to the HOA's iron-fisted rules. From the moment he moved in, he'd received notices about everything from the height of his grass to the color of his mailbox. The board, led by the infamous Karen Whitaker, a retired accountant with a penchant for power and a clipboard always at the ready, seemed to thrive on enforcing bylaws that turned neighborly living into a battlefield. Karen's emails were legendary for their passive-aggressive tone, often citing obscure clauses that no one else could find in the covenants. But Alex had mostly flown under the radar, keeping to himself and enjoying his solitude. That all changed one crisp autumn afternoon when Alex decided to dust off his old jet ski. He'd stored it in the boathouse by the lake for years, a remnant of summers spent with his grandfather teaching him to skim across the water like a stone. The machine roared to life with a satisfying growl, and soon Alex was carving waves, the spray kicking up in glittering arcs as he looped around the lake's perimeter. The wind whipped through his hair, and for a moment, the stresses of work and the petty neighborhood squabbles melted away. Little did he know, eyes were watching from afar. Across the street, in her immaculate colonial-style home, Karen Whitaker peered through her binoculars from her second-floor window. Her lips pursed in disapproval as she watched the jet ski disrupt the serene surface of the lake. "That can't be allowed," she muttered to herself, already reaching for her phone. In her mind, the lake was part of the community's aesthetic, a picturesque feature that enhanced property values, not some personal playground for reckless activities. She fired off a text to the HOA board group chat. "Violation in progress at Harlan property. Motorized watercraft on the lake. This must stop immediately." The board members, a mix of busy professionals and eager retirees, responded with a flurry of emojis and agreements. Within minutes, Karen had drafted an emergency notice citing Article 7, Section 4 of the Covenants, which prohibited nuisance activities that could disturb the peace or pose safety risks. But she didn't stop there. Convinced that Alex's jet skiing was not only against the rules but potentially illegal. After all, who knew what pollutants that machine was spewing into the water? She dialed the non-emergency police line. "There's unauthorized motorized activity on a body of water in our neighborhood," she reported, her voice dripping with urgency. It could be endangering wildlife and residents alike. By the time the police arrived, Alex had just pulled the jet ski back to the dock, his cheeks flushed from the exhilaration. He wiped sweat from his brow, unaware of the drama unfolding. Two officers approached, their cruisers parked conspicuously on his driveway, lights flashing for effect. "Sir, we've received a complaint about illegal operation of a watercraft," one officer said, notepad in hand. Alex blinked in confusion, explaining that the lake was entirely on his property, a fact documented in his deed. The officers, polite but firm, asked to see proof, and while they waited, Karen hovered at the edge of his yard, arms crossed, a smug smile playing on her lips. As Alex rummaged through his files in the house, pulling out the yellowed deed from 1912 that clearly outlined the lake's boundaries as private, he felt a surge of irritation. This wasn't just about a fun afternoon. It was an intrusion on his rights. The deed, passed down through generations, included surveys showing the lake predated the subdivision by decades, exempting it from HOA oversight. But the officers, after a quick review, suggested he cease activities until the matter could be clarified with the county. Better safe than sorry, they advised, leaving with a warning citation for potential noise violation. Word spread like wildfire through Willow Creek. Neighbors whispered over fences, some sympathizing with Alex's right to enjoy his land, others nodding in agreement with Karen's stance that such disruptions lowered the community's standards. Karen, emboldened, scheduled an emergency HOA meeting to discuss enforcing boundaries on non-communal water features. She envisioned fines, liens even forcing Alex to fill in the lake if necessary to maintain uniformity. Alex, meanwhile, spent the evening poring over documents, his initial annoyance turning into determination. He wasn't about to let a busybody board dictate what he did on his own property. The next few days brought a barrage of emails and notices taped to his door. The HOA demanded he remove the jet ski from view, claiming it was an eyesore, and threatened legal action if he operated it again. Alex responded calmly in writing, attaching copies of his deed and historical surveys, but his replies went unanswered. Instead, Karen rallied support, knocking on doors to gather signatures for a petition to protect our peaceful environment. Some residents signed reluctantly, fearing reprisal, while others declined, sharing stories of their own HOA run-ins. One evening, as the sun dipped low, casting golden hues over the lake, Alex sat on his porch contemplating his next move. He recalled his grandfather's tales of fighting off developers in the 1970s who tried to encroach on the land. The deed had been his shield then, and it would be now. But the pressure mounted. Anonymous notes appeared in his mailbox warning of consequences if he didn't comply. The once tranquil neighborhood felt charged with tension, the lake at the center of a brewing storm. As autumn leaves began to fall, blanketing the ground in reds and oranges, Alex decided to take action. He hired a local attorney specializing in property law, a no-nonsense woman named Elena Ruiz, who had a track record of dismantling overzealous HOAs. Together, they reviewed the covenants, discovering that the HOA's formation in the 1980s explicitly excluded pre-existing private features like his lake. "This is a slam dunk," Elena assured him, but Alex knew the fight would be ugly. The HOA meeting arrived, held in the community center under fluorescent lights that buzzed like angry bees. Karen presided, gavel in hand, as residents filed in. She presented her case with slides showing before and after photos of the lake, calm versus the chaotic waves from the jet ski. Murmurs of agreement rippled through the crowd. But when Alex stood to speak, armed with his deed and Elena's analysis, the room grew silent. He laid out the facts. The lake was grandfathered in, immune to HOA rules, and any attempt to regulate it was overreach. Karen interrupted, her face reddening, insisting the board had authority over all visible elements affecting property values. The debate heated, with accusations flying, but Alex held firm. By meeting's end, doubt crept into some board members' eyes, but Karen vowed to pursue legal remedies. As attendees dispersed, whispers of division echoed. Some praised Alex's stand, others labeled him a troublemaker. Back home, Alex felt a mix of relief and anxiety. The lake lay still under the moon, a silent witness to the escalating drama. He knew this was just the beginning. Karen wouldn't back down easily. Little did he know, her next move would involve digging into county records, hoping to find a loophole that could turn the tide in her favor. The stage was set for a confrontation that would test the limits of community control versus individual rights, with the ancient deed holding the key to resolution. As winter's chill settled over Willow Creek estates, blanketing the lawns in frost and turning the lake into a glassy mirror, the conflict between Alex Harlan and the HOA intensified. Karen Whitaker, undeterred by the pushback at the meeting, launched a full-scale investigation. She spent hours at the county clerk's office sifting through dusty archives, convinced there must be some oversight in Alex's deed that could bring the lake under HOA jurisdiction. Her allies on the board, including the vice president, a real estate agent named Mark Thompson, joined her, poring over maps and plats from the subdivision's development. What they uncovered surprised even them. Historical records showed that the lake had once been part of a larger wetland, but Alex's family had legally claimed and maintained it as private. However, Karen latched onto a minor discrepancy, a 1950s easement for drainage that crossed a corner of the property. "This could be it," she exclaimed, interpreting it broadly as granting the community access rights. Armed with this, she filed a formal complaint with the county, alleging that Alex's jet skiing violated environmental codes and encroached on shared resources. Alex, meanwhile, received a certified letter demanding he cease all water activities and allow HOA inspection of the lake's banks. Elena Ruiz, his attorney, laughed it off as baseless, but advised preparation for court if needed. "They're bluffing, but bluffs can cost time and money," she said. Alex nodded, diving deeper into his family's history. He discovered old letters from his grandfather negotiating with the developers who built Willow Creek, explicitly carving out the lake from any covenants. These documents bolstered his case, but the constant harassment wore on him. Neighbors avoided eye contact, and his mailbox overflowed with violation notices for unrelated issues like unshoveled sidewalks. One snowy morning, as Alex cleared his driveway, a tow truck arrived, summoned by the HOA to remove his jet ski from the boathouse, claiming it was abandoned equipment. He blocked the truck, phone in hand recording the encounter, while the driver shrugged apologetically. Karen watched from her window, phone pressed to her ear, calling the police again. Officers returned, diffusing the situation but issuing another warning. The incident went viral in the neighborhood Facebook group, polarizing residents. Some decried the HOA's aggression, others defended it as necessary for order. Emboldened by the online support, a small group of dissenters formed, led by a young couple, the Patels, who had their own grievances with fines for holiday lights. They approached Alex, sharing stories of Karen's reign of terror, finding a widow for overgrown flowers, threatening liens over unpainted fences. "We need to band together," Mrs. Patel urged. Alex agreed, and soon informal meetings occurred in backyards, plotting to challenge the board at the next election. Karen, sensing the shift, doubled down. She organized a community beautification day, ostensibly to clean the neighborhood but really to rally loyalists against disruptive elements. During the event, she pointedly avoided Alex's property, but whispers about boycotting his lake views circulated. Alex, unfazed, spent his days reinforcing his boundaries with subtle fencing, ensuring no encroachment. As spring approached, thawing the ice on the lake, tensions peaked. The county responded to Karen's complaint, scheduling a site visit. Elena prepared a comprehensive dossier, including expert opinions from environmental consultants confirming the lake's private status and minimal impact from recreational use. On the day of the inspection, officials arrived, met by Alex, Karen, and a crowd of onlookers. The surveyor examined boundaries, nodding as Alex presented evidence. Karen argued vehemently, waving her easement papers, but the officials dismissed it as irrelevant. The easement was for underground drainage, not surface access. "This lake is unequivocally private," the lead inspector declared, shutting down her claims. Deflated but not defeated, Karen stormed off, vowing appeals. The victory was small but significant. Word spread, emboldening more residents to question the HOA's authority. Yet the battle raged on. Karen pushed for a special assessment to fund legal fees against Alex, framing it as protecting the community. At the vote, divisions showed, half supported, half opposed, leading to heated arguments. Alex, with Elena's guidance, countered by filing a counterclaim for harassment, seeking damages for the unwarranted police calls and stress. Summer brought warmth back to the lake, tempting Alex to jet ski again, but he held off, waiting for resolution. The neighborhood buzzed with anticipation as court dates loomed. Friendships strained, alliances formed, and the once idyllic suburb transformed into a microcosm of power struggles. Alex reflected on his grandfather's wisdom. Land is more than dirt, its legacy. He knew the deed would prevail, but the cost of defending it weighed heavy. As blooms dotted the lakeshore, the stage was set for the final showdown, where truth would drown out the noise. With summer in full bloom over Willow Creek estates, the lake sparkled under endless blue skies, its waters inviting yet untouched by Alex Harlan's jet ski amid the ongoing feud. The HOA, under Karen Whitaker's relentless leadership, had escalated to filing a lawsuit, claiming the lake's use constituted a public nuisance and violated implied covenants. Court documents flew back and forth, with Karen's attorney arguing that the subdivision's master plan superseded historical deeds. Elena Ruiz, sharp as ever, dismantled their case piece by piece, presenting affidavits from historians and surveyors affirming the lake's exemption. The neighborhood divided further, with yard signs popping up, "Support our HOA versus freedom on private land." Social media amplified the drama, drawing attention from local news outlets who dubbed it the Lake War of Willow Creek. Reporters interviewed residents, capturing Karen's indignant speeches about preserving community harmony, and Alex's measured responses emphasizing property rights. The publicity backfired on the HOA. Online commenters roasted Karen as a classic Karen, memes circulating of her with binoculars and a gavel. As the trial date neared, discoveries revealed Karen's overreach extended beyond Alex. Emails showed selective enforcement, favoring board members' violations while hammering others. The Patels and allies used this to petition for a board recall, gathering signatures door to door. Karen fought back with smear campaigns hinting at Alex's environmental disregard, but evidence mounted against her. In court, under the stern gaze of Judge Harlan, no relation, ironically, the case unfolded. Elena presented the original deed, a tattered document with faded ink, alongside chain of title records proving unbroken private ownership. Experts testified to the lake's isolation from communal waters, debunking pollution claims. Karen's side faltered. Their easement argument crumbled under cross-examination, revealed as a misinterpretation. The judge ruled swiftly. The lake was private. HOA had no jurisdiction, and their actions constituted harassment. He ordered them to cease interference, pay Alex's legal fees, and reimburse for emotional distress. Gasps echoed in the courtroom as Karen's face drained of color. Outside, supporters cheered Alex, who remained humble, thanking Elena and his new allies. Back in Willow Creek, change swept through. Karen resigned amid backlash. The board restructured with fairer members, including Mrs. Patel. Fines were reviewed, bylaws amended to respect pre-existing rights. Alex finally revved up his jet ski, waves lapping freely as neighbors waved approvingly from afar. The lake, once a battleground, returned to peace, a testament to standing firm. Alex's victory inspired others, proving that sometimes an old deed can silence the loudest tyrants. The suburb healed, lessons learned in the ripples of one man's fight for his slice of paradise. Thanks for sticking around for this epic HOA takedown. If you enjoyed it, like this video, subscribe for more wild stories, and drop a comment with your own neighbor nightmares. See you in the next one.